this is something you don't see very often. Reverend Al Sharpton, he's going after Speaker Nancy Pelosi and warning her about her warning to Team USA not to get involved in politics over there in Beijing during the Olympics. Here's what he had to say about her warning.
I respectfully disagree with the speaker here, and I usually am supportive of her, because you cannot normalize what they're doing in China. Right. And to go there and act like all is well is to normalize some very brutal behavior.
All right, well, mark down this moment, me giving Al Sharpton credit, because it takes a lot to actually criticize her, but he's doing it for the right reasons. The idea that he is actually out there saying to other Democrats, criticize China, speak out against them, use your voice, use your First Amendment right that you have to do this is good of him to do that. Yeah. And it also it shows you can push back against Pelosi.
No kidding. And I think with Pelosi, the part here we have to remember is that she presented such a weak argument for our athletes not to speak up against the Chinese communists. So kudos to Sharpton. But Sean, remember when we talked about the Uyghur athlete who helped light the Olympic flame during the opening ceremony? Well, the 20-year-old cross-country skier finished 43rd in her event and has since vanished from the spotlight. This is a part of the Chinese regime that really raises a lot of questions.
Of course it does. I mean, the second that they didn't do well, what did you think was going to happen? I mean, they went bye-bye real quick. It shouldn't be a shocker, but it was amazing. The whole thing was a big propaganda piece that they did at the beginning. And then as soon as they didn't do well, they disappeared. And the stories out of Beijing, though, they just keep getting crazier. China is going after a 19-year-old figure skater on Chinese social media after she finished with the lowest score of the day in the competition, bumping China out of the top three. But here's the truly bizarre part. The figure skater is actually American, right? She was born in California and gave up her citizenship to compete for China. She even changed her name from Beverly Zhu to Zhu Yi. Now, this is crazy. You'd think if you were that good, you would try to compete for the American team.
Sean, she obviously couldn't cut it with the American team, ended up going to China. This is a good story for China. Beverly,
but then
stay in China,
as soon as
okay? Don't come back to America. That's
I don't know that she's. I don't think that's going to be a choice.
No kidding. But still, I think that's very unfortunate. But we also have an update on Chinese tennis star Peng Shuai. The 36-year-old star first made news last year when she accused a high-ranking official of sexual assault before she went missing. But in a carefully managed interview with French media at the Olympics, Peng is now denying the alleged assault.
Yeah, well, of course she is. Same thing. You know, suddenly it's that didn't happen. Many are saying that the interview is a forced confession and part of that propaganda machine. I mean, take a look at this image during the interview that happened. You can literally see the Chinese official lurking in the background. I mean, this is happening over and over again. When reporters are doing interviews and talking back, whether it's in the U.S., right off out of camera sight is literally part of their secret police that's making sure that reporters don't say anything or the interview stops. Yeah. I mean, literally, they can't even have freedom of the press when they're reporting back, whether it's NBC or anyone else, CNN, you name it, and reporting back to what's happening here. This is unbelievable that we allowed the Olympics to take place there.
And Sean, there's no question that it's had an impact. You're talking about the opening ceremony. It's the least watched opening ceremony in
because
history.
Everyone knew it.
Exactly. And you've also got the fact that it's getting very complicated for the Chinese. The athletes are complaining about the quarantine conditions.
Yeah, and our next guest is trying to take a stand against China. Florida Congressman Mike Waltz purchased an ad that was supposed to run in Washington, D.C. today during NBC's Olympic coverage, but NBC has decided not to run the ad. Here's a quick look at it.
American companies are drunk on Chinese dollars, entangled with communist dictators committing atrocities and propping up these genocide games staged by the Chinese Communist Party. And what can we do?
Stand for freedom. Defund the dictators. When you see made in China,
put it down.
Congressman Waltz, welcome to the show. Good to see you.
Good to be with you.
All right, so NBC's wanted you to remove the company logos. Why did they want you to do that? And they're claiming that it wasn't rejected. They just had sort of They said, quote, per NBC's long-standing advertising guidelines, changes to the ad were requested so it can air. The interesting thing is this, and for our viewers to understand this, if this was Mike Waltz's campaign, I don't know that they could have gotten away with it, but because it was run by a political action committee, they've got a lot more leeway to do that.
Yeah, but look, at the end of the day, and I did this, by the way, with Enes Kanter Freedom, the NBA player who's so bravely has taken a stand when none of his other athletes or NBA stars will. And yeah, NBC came back and said, we'll run the ad, but you've got to erase and censor and take down all of those company logos. Well, that's a non-rejection rejection. The whole point is to point out these woke corporations who preach social justice, about Georgia, Major League Baseball, and voting integrity. But then when it comes to their balance sheet over in China and 1 million Muslims in concentration camps, 6 million dead because of COVID, aggressiveness towards Taiwan, Tibet, Hong Kong, forced organ harvesting, on and on. NBC is silent. These companies are silent. And we're going to keep calling out their hypocrisy.
So, Congressman, why do you think these corporations continue to be silent when it comes to China and how much? And the fact is that they're investing so much money in these Olympics. Don't you think they should respond to the ad?
Well, two reasons. One, they're all on the take, right? Coca-Cola gets its sugar from Western China. Nike gets its cotton from Western China. I mean, they are literally making their products off of modern day slavery with millions of people with a gun to their head. So again, they want to preach social justice here, but they are literally profiting off of modern day slavery over there. So they're all on the take, and the Chinese Communist Party knows it, and they're using our greatest strength, our open free market, against us. So whether it's academia, the NBA, Wall Street, our politics, Pelosi, you name it, they know that, and they're all afraid that the Chinese will cut them off from that market, so they have them all complicit and compliant, and they're trying to silence people like me and Enes Kanter Freedom.
So look, the ad says when you see something made in China, put it down, right? That's what you want? Yes? No? Okay.
Well,
so
look, I mean,
I got to be honest with you.
Yeah, go ahead.
But that's what. No. So that, but correct. That's what your goal is, right? You want people to say, put it down, right? And I heard we had Rick Scott on the show a couple days ago. He said the same thing, right? I got to be honest with you though. I just don't know how realistic that is. But I do think that, you guys down in Florida, you make a ton of sugar. You just talked about Coca-Cola's need for sugar. I think the problem to me is that we have policies in this country, and it's so much more evident 2 years after COVID, that if we don't change our policies, I mean, look, I think I agree with you. Coke and Nike are so woke. I got problems with them on all that front. But at the end of the day, business is going to do what business does, which is to go after things that make them more profitable, despite all this wokeness. So if we can make better tax policy and encourage them to be made things here in the U.S., so isn't that something that we should focus on? Because when I look at something, at the end of the day, I go, oh gosh, it's made in China. I don't know how many times I'd have a choice. But if we could make these companies, incentivize them to make it here, fair tax, other things that would make the tax policy, that's where I think the effort should be.
No, Sean, I get it. And look, I mean, there's a difference in having some shoestrings made in China and 90% of our pharmaceuticals, 90% of our computer chips, 90% of our rare earth minerals, things that make our modern economy go. And when you have an adversary in the Chinese Communist Party that is openly threatening to cut off those supply chains in order to bend the United States to its will, when President Xi is talking about replacing the American dream with the China dream, and that a new sheriff is in town along with his sidekick Putin, that's a real issue. And so we need to bring those supply chains home. If it doesn't make financial sense to have them here, then fine, put them in India, put them in Malaysia, put them in Vietnam, right? There's a lot of other places where you can benefit from cheaper production costs. So that's what we're pointing out, and the American people are getting the story. I had a member of my staff in a diner this morning. Someone asked to put the Olympics on, and the waitress said, no, we don't support genocide in this diner in North Florida.
Good for
and
them.
I think in the wake of COVID, That's what we're saying. American people, put it down and let's defund dictatorships, not defund police. I don't trust these CEOs as far as I could throw them, but the American people know better, and we're going to bring those supply chains home.
So, Congressman, I just want to say, you've done good when NBC tells you can't air your ad, but then it's going viral. So good job, Congressman Waltz, and thank you for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to keep fighting this fight.
Great. Thank you.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, where real news for real people.